Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Friday, the 6th of June. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined by two smiling faces. First of all, Chris Jack. How's it going, Chris?
Not too bad. We're through another week, which is the most important thing.
Yes, absolutely. And we've got a manager / head coach in place now, which is great. That's one thing ticked off the list, and we can concentrate on players now. Stevie also joins us. How's it going, Stevie?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. I hope everybody is well. We have a takeover, a sporting director, a new head coach. All we need now is an influx of good players, and we'll be on our way, Derek. So yeah, we're the announcements have came and gone, and now it's time to get on with the hard work.
Yeah, apologies, folks, for the sound quality. I've actually just turned on my laptop because my microphone's not been getting picked up. A few technical issues this morning. Yes, I know my mic. Yes, I know, but yeah, we'll crack on regardless. I'm on the laptop. Yeah, so hopefully we'll persevere with this. But I've been having a few issues this week. Hopefully, a few gremlins in the system. So I'll have a look at that when we come off here. Just before we crack on with all things Rangers, just a quick word for our podcast sponsors: Willows Fencing, the Glasgow-based fencing company you can trust, and proud partners of the Rangers Review with over 20 years of experience and unparalleled quality. Their qualified team is dedicated to keeping customers happy and providing exceptional work, aiming to deliver nothing but perfection in every job. They offer free consultations, whether it's small-scale refurbishment or a large-scale complete fencing project. There's no task they cannot or will not tackle. So look no further than Willows Fencing. And you also get 10% off with the code Rangers Review if you head over to their website, willows-fencing.com. Right, let's crack on then, lads. You two boys were at the press conference yesterday as Russell Martin was unveiled. His first press conference as Rangers boss. You can watch that in full, incidentally, folks, over on the YouTube channel. Quite extensive. Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell also in attendance. We'll start with you, Chris. I know you were on with Joshua afterwards to give your reaction to it. What did you make of it all?
I think the reaction. Oh, he's gone already. The reaction to it, I think, Stevie, I don't know if you agree, it's the reaction to the appointment was fairly vociferous, it has to be said. Now, people were not overly pleased with this appointment. They did not want Russell Martin as Rangers manager. Ultimately, Russell Martin is Rangers manager. Like, he sat in that press conference room. We saw him with our own two eyes yesterday, Stevie. He is the Rangers manager. People just have to like it. They just have to get on with it. They just have to go and see what he can do with this squad, what he can do with this team, and what results he can get. I think we've all spoken often enough over the weeks about who we would like to have seen, who our preferred candidate was. I don't think there was a huge groundswell of opinion on this show amongst the comments that we've seen for Russell Martin. But he's the guy that's got the job. It's not his fault that he's been given the job. Now he's interviewed. He's clearly come through the interview process really well. The board have decided that he is the man to lead this new era. And now he will be judged by what he says, and he'll be judged, more importantly, by what he does. I thought his press conference yesterday, he answered the questions about the fan unrest. I thought he answered that well. And there was a couple of other bits I thought he spoke well on. I thought Kevin Thelwell spoke well yesterday as well. So there's not a lot of time for this squad to be rebuilt. There's not a lot of time for Russell Martin to put his philosophy across, to try and really get into this squad. He has to start well. He has to get people on side, but he knows that himself. He was fully aware before he even rocked up at Ibrox yesterday morning. He knew what he was walking into. I don't think he'll be surprised by any of that.
What did you make of it, Stevie?
Yeah, similar to what Chris said. Do you know the funny thing is, first of all, I really like the fact that he said that his time here was awful, and that was a huge drive to come back, and he wants to correct that, and he used the word desperate to correct that, which I really quite liked. A bit of self-determination in there, which you need. I enjoyed the fact that he said that he'd learned a lot at his previous clubs, and he'd learned at Southampton that there's things he had to change in amongst his ideas to be able to take that next step. And do you know what? if his name was David Ancelotti, every single one of us would be overjoyed with how he spoke about his feelings on what he wants to do with his team when he talks about running harder, running faster, dominating the ball, dominating in key areas, being attacking, using pace, using power, and overall winning. If Ancelotti or Gerrard or Danny Rule or anybody had came in and shared that kind of tactical insight with us and what he wants to do, every single one of us would be sitting here overjoyed. So for me, he said everything right, Derek, that I want to hear, the kind of style that I want to watch, everything about it I liked. So I'm going to give him that opportunity. He's here. I'm going to get behind him. Any preconceptions that may have come before his appointment are now gone. And I'm looking forward to seeing whether or not he can implement that style of football on this Rangers team. Now, he won't be able to do it with this squad. I think that's quite clear. First of all, he plays with pace and power and wingers. Well, that doesn't exist currently within our squad. And that's not meaning to be, I'm not wanting to be abusive. I'm just, in my opinion, being factual. We don't have wingers that can do that. We don't have the players that can drive from midfield consistently. He has players that I think he has between 6, 8, maybe 10 at a push players. And amongst that, there's 3 or 4 which I consider to be really, really good ones. And the rest, he's got a job in his hands. It's not a stretch to say that he needs 7 or 8 starters and that he needs half a dozen squad players to back that up as well as Derek, in my column that I sent to Chris just literally 15 minutes ago for this week's Rangers Review article. There's 10 names easily in there that can leave this football club, and none of us would miss them in the slightest. So that's a big indictment of where this squad is in terms of its capability, its ability to win games and things like that, and also it's very unbalanced, and I think we've seen that. So I'm all aboard a new era, and now the time is to get excited about signings and who's coming in for the support. We want to know who's coming in, when are they going to arrive. It sounds very much like there's 2 or 3 ready imminently. Russell Martin starts on Monday, Tuesday next week, and I think that signings will follow very quickly. So this is the exciting part for us as a support. We get to see who's coming in, but it's all about recruitment now. It's, Dan Purdy, Kevin Thelwell, Russell Martin. They're all needing to get their heads together and decide which players are which. Now, they're not coming into it blindfolded. We know that. So there's a lot of excitement about what's to come for this squad. And we just need to wait and see how it all comes together. But I'm certainly looking forward to. We need excitement. This team hasn't been exciting to watch, Chris, for a very long time. We've spoke about it for a very long time. It needs pace, it needs power, it needs goals, it needs excitement. Not on one player, not on 2 players, on multiple players, multiple threats throughout that squad. So I'm looking forward to it, Derek, very much. I thought he spoke really well in terms of not just words, because we've heard all that before, but in terms of what he wants to do, how he wants to play, what he wants to bring to the football club. That excites me.
Chris, you got some stick a good wee while ago with this regards to the process. It was thought that Rangers were looking for someone that never had a Rangers connection, if you like, but they have plumped for Russell Martin. Shows that it has been a pretty extensive, thorough process that they've conducted with a fair few twists and turns in there as well. Are you surprised? Why do you think they have gone for Russell Martin? And is it a case of other candidates that were in the frame perhaps not fancying it, or the board, as we heard from Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart yesterday, that Russell Martin seemed to be the outstanding candidate from the off, pretty much?
I think he's clearly interviewed well, and the one thing that mentioned this to Josh on the show yesterday, the whole process. People can give their opinions on where they have reached the right outcome. I don't think you can say it's not been thorough. No, we've been on this show every Monday saying it'll be by the end of the week. It'll be by the end of the week. They've taken their time. The recruitment team, so Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart and Greta Steinson from the 49ers, they seem they seem really comfortable with the timescales here. They're not feeling that pressure that has really built amongst the fans. Like every morning we've been on hearing people saying this, it has to be now, it has to be now. They're really comfortable with the timescales. They have certainly been really in depth in terms of the process. In terms of that line about, I didn't say it wouldn't be. It was likely to be, and likely could be 51% against 49%. It went down to it went down to two candidates, and it went to Russell Martin. I think we have been quite consistent on this show and on the site, more consistent than has been elsewhere at times. We have never said that anyone would be or is going to be a Rangers manager, apart from the other night when we reported it looked likely it was going to be Russell Martin, and we then had the story on the night to say that it was going to be Russell Martin. Within 14 hours, he was unveiled at Ibrox. We never said that Steven Gerrard would be Rangers manager. We never said that Marco Rose would be Rangers manager. We never said, no, Stevie mentioned a couple of names there, Rowe, Edwards, all these other ones.
Yeah.
Ancelotti was one who we spoke about a lot. We also had a couple of stories on the site about him because he wanted the job. He was really involved in that process right until the end of it. Again, we never said that he would be Rangers manager. The only person that we said would be Rangers manager was Russell Martin. And that story, I've had that it's mentioned a few times on these shows. I've had a lot of tweets. Somebody saying I should apologise for lying to the Rangers. The information at that time, but a month or so ago, 6 weeks or so ago, the information at that time, stand by what I wrote at that time. I think you look at how the process has unfolded, no one can say that it's been a straightforward process. No one can say that it's not had various twists and turns and all these bits and bobs ongoing. It's been quite the few weeks. So to stand by what we wrote and what we discussed at that time, that it was likely, not that it would definitely be likely. And if people read what it's actually written, rather than taking their own interpretation of what they think we've said or what we think they've written, then I think that would be helpful heading into a summer where there's going to be a lot of names and there's going to be a lot of stories and there's going to be a lot of rumours. People just have to keep in mind what we're actually saying, what we're actually reading, and overall, I think our track record on this site, all three of us, plus Josh, I think our track record more than stands up.
Yeah, well, mine does. Mine does. Can I just say, Derek, on that, just to say, these processes change every single time, and we can only report what's been said. Chris's article in that particular comment and what he said, and likely being reading in between the lines for me, and not just saying this because Chris and I work together on things, was aimed towards Steven Gerrard, and that's pretty much how it was taken from me and what was meant from it. Russell Martin, fair enough. He had a small stint here, but it was more aimed at who's not coming back in the managerial role, and that's been proven to be spot on. But what I will say about this is, aside of that, Russell Martin had over 7 interviews for this job. That's how extensive that was. Various interviews with Patrick Stewart, Kevin Thelwell, spoke to our new chairman.
You've had a job interview where you require 7 interviews for it. That is a lot, Stevie, is it not?
Normally, I don't get invited back after one, so I've never been.
We'll call you, don't call us.
Aye, something like that. But that's why I've had a career for 20 years. But what I will say is it's extensive. He met with our chairman, he met with our vice chairman, he met Patrick Stewart, he spoke to Kevin Thelwell over and over again. This has been a rigorous process from Rangers, and it's gone on now for months and months. So in every single one, he is impressed. There's a bit more about from Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell at 12 noon today. Is that right, Chris?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the embargoed section, folks, we got to speak to Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart themselves. So that'll be out at 12, yeah.
The reason I mentioned that, Derek, is because I asked Patrick Stewart specifically on the procedure behind this appointment, how many people have been offered the job and how many, who was their first choice, etc., etc. So all that you can hear and see in print at 12 o'clock. So I think that's really quite enlightening as well. There's been a lot of stories about, 4 or 5 people turning down this job. And I think that when people read what he says, I think that'll stop any of that conversation.
Yes, lots of comments coming in, as you can imagine. I like this, Brian, with the point. And I noticed this as soon as, Chris, you posted that video of him walking into the Blue Room yesterday. Brian says, I like what you had to say in his interview. Those shoes, though. As soon as I seen he wasn't wearing the brown brogues, I knew he would get absolute pelters for that. So, Russell, if you are watching, get yourself down to Slater's or whatever menswear store are available to you and get yourself a pair of brown brogues. Stevie, you want to jump in there?
We spoke to him. Chris had the time with him, but we spoke to him and we said to him, and he said, lads, I am back from holiday. This is a 24-hour flying visit. I had to go with what I had. He's been made aware of the traditions of the football club with regards to being on pitch side. He did say, though, this was interesting. He did say he likes to be in a tracksuit on the pitch side. He likes to be, and we said to him, no, it's always been suit and things like that. But you might see that changing. You might see Russell Martin, wearing a different attire on the pitch side. So
he was smart at Southampton, wasn't he? From recollection, he wore some
jumpers and stuff like that. So you might see a more smart, casual look from Russell Martin. But yes, we did give him stick regarding his shoe of choice. So it was But by the way, just to say, and speaking to Russell Martin, a very down-to-earth guy, enjoyed a bit of banter about things, and enjoyed a laugh with all of us, as well as being serious about his intentions. So with regards to anything like that, he didn't take it the wrong way. He laughed and joked about it. He said, yep, I'm well aware, and I know, lads, I've done my best. And so that was pointed out to him. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I love this comment from the sniper. Where is it? The leaf. There it is. He says, couldn't care if he wore a mankini as long as he wins things. Mankinis, can you remember them? They're not a thing anymore, are they? I think when Borat was a thing back in the day. Ever wore a mankini, Chris?
No, safe to say, I have not. Not even with the brogues.
Stevie.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question. I think it's probably best just to move on.
Yeah. Moving swiftly on then. So he's given an interview as well to Sky, has Russell Martin, talking about a wide range of issues, of course. You mentioned there, Stevie, about getting players in. He's hopeful of bringing 1 or 2 before the Champions League qualifiers. And he says, I'm also willing to be surprised. I'm open to being surprised by some of the players we have here. I think the way we're going to try and work and play is going to give them the best chance to show us that they've got what they've got and to give us the best version of themselves, and hopefully 1 or 2 surprises. We'll need some help before that game for sure, but until we get in here and assess everyone, how many we'll need before the game or how realistic that is, because football and the business and transfer window can be difficult, I'm pretty sure by then we'll have 1 or 2 people in to help us add to the group. He was also quizzed on James Tavernier. I know there's a good few comments coming in on Tav and what his future may hold at Rangers. This is what he said about the captain. I think you have to respect what Tav has done here. It's incredible. I think it was his first season having the armband when I came down. He's a really good person and cares so much about the club. He's been a brilliant performer for the club over a long period of time, which is not easy to do at a club like this with its size and stature. I have so much respect for that. I look forward to catching up with him properly. We've had a very brief conversation. I look forward to picking his brains, and he'll be hugely important for us moving forward. What do you make of that, Chris? Fair few comments, as I touched on, that have been coming in on James Tavernier. And comment here, will he take the armband off Tav? I don't think we've discussed Tav at length on various shows, Chris. I think while he's still at Rangers, he's still the captain, whether people like that or not. I can't see Russell Martin stripping him of the captaincy. What's your views on it?
There's, just we were talking about embargoed sections of interviews, there's a bit more that will be out on the site tomorrow at 12, I think it is, from Josh. He sat down with Russell Martin in one of his newspaper interviews, and Tav came up, so can't say too much about it, given it's under the embargo. But it's interesting to go and see what he says on the captain. Generally, I think Philippe Clement was asked this question at his unveiling presser 2 years or so ago, 18 months ago, and he answered it saying, "I'm not going to go and change the captain on day one." I would have been surprised if Russell Martin said, "I've only just got the job last night and I slept on it, and I'm going to take the armband off Tav and I'm going to transfer list him." He's not going to come out and say that first time. He's not going to make that call on his first press conference. I think he will have an honest conversation with Tav. He's not going to play as many games next season. I don't think he will have the capability to play as many games next season, given the I spoke a lot about this football philosophy and the way that Russell likes his team to play. He outlined that again yesterday. It's going to be high energy, high tempo. If things go well for Rangers in terms of latter stages of cups and doing well in Europe, there's a lot of games to be played. Tav cannot play every minute of those 50, 55, 60 games. It's not going to happen. People will say, you've said that before, and you said that the season before last. That's true. The right back situation does need addressed. John Sterling has got his long-term injury. Who knows when we'll see him back on the pitch? Unfortunately, the Rangers have to get into the market. They have to go and sign a right back. Is that a backup one, or is that a replacement that Tav can then chop and change with? That's one of the big calls that Russell Martin has to make over the next couple of weeks. I would be surprised if he comes in day one and says, "James, I'm sorry, but you're out." I don't see that happening. Will he be phased out? I think that's a possibility.
Steve, I think the fact he's been a teammate of Tav's probably helps James Tavernier with respect to whether he plays a part in this new look Rangers side next season. The fact that every sort of Rangers that came has kept Tav in place. They've all seen him as a vital component of the team. Tells you that he's pretty much a model professional, even though his performances have dipped. Of course they have. But what do you see happening with James Tavernier next season?
Listen, James Tavernier's played pretty solidly now for 9 years in a row. I barely remember James Tavernier being out for any length of time. I think he had one spell perhaps where he missed 2 or 3 months at most in 9 years.
Yeah.
So we can talk about James Tavernier with regards to ability and whatever. James Tavernier's 33. There's players that play until they're 38, 39. So perhaps exactly what Chris is saying, and I'd echo that. If James Tavernier plays, there'll be another right back coming in. There'll be somebody else coming in because James Tavernier will not play 50-odd games again. I don't see that happening in the slightest. What I would say is Russell Martin's not coming into this blind. He's not deaf to what has been said amongst his support in any position, not just James Tavernier, and that starts from the goalkeeper all the way up. I think you're going to see over a space of time, Derek, significant change to Rangers, starting with a back five that will look completely different to it is right now, and then moving forward. So there's a lot of work to be done. As I said right before, in order for Russell Martin's teams to play, he has to have pace and power on the wings, and he does not have that in the slightest, and he's well aware of it. So these things will all be rectified straight away, and that's what we need. You know, there is a conservative, maybe 1 or 2 coming in by the Champions League qualifier. I expect it to be a handful at least. So I expect it to be a lot more, and I think it will happen fairly quickly. In terms of I'm starting next week, I think bodies will begin to arrive. So I'm quietly confident in the fact that Russell Martin is not coming into this blind and wondering what's happening with his squad. He's well aware. And also remember as well, over the course of these interviews, that hasn't happened within a week, Derek. This has happened within months. Russell Martin sat and said that himself. As soon as this became a possibility, he watched and began to dissect this Rangers squad, highlights at games, etc. So none of what, he's not coming into this blind and trying to catch up on highlights and things like that. He has identified areas and positions in the squad. He's identified mistakes and where we can improve and what we can do from all the games in the turn of the year onwards as a minimum. So Russell Martin's not coming into this suddenly surprised by James Tavernier or Cyril Dessers or Jack Butland or anybody else that the fans have a high opinion of. So, you know, I think we have to allow this to unwind now. Allow him to do what he thinks best for the football club. Allow him to make the decisions with his backroom team that might come in the future. Allow him to make his decisions with the players that you'll bring in and the players that you'll let go. And I expect that the players you'll let go will be quite high, and I expect the players that will come in will be quite high as well, Derek. It's a long window in terms of it going over a space of months. It's not just weeks. So a lot of that might happen gradually, but I expect there to be a good 2 or 3 ready to go and join them immediately. So it's all going to happen right in front of us, and we just have to allow that. And he has to be, if he keeps James Tavernier as captain of this club, and he's a bit part player like Chris suggested, then it's up to somebody else to take the mantle on a weekly basis. Who's going to be the next one that steps up? Who's going to be the one that comes in? Are they going to bring in that experience, that leadership? Or is there somebody already there that can be... sometimes you get a club captain, you know, like an overall club captain. I think you might find that James Tavernier will be like that.
No issue
with regards to, you know, a possible on-pitch captain, you might see things like that happening. So, but James Tavernier, as I said, has played 9 years solidly, and I think that not playing every week would certainly be a help for him. I don't see him leaving the club. I've been quite vocal about that even on this show. I don't see James Tavernier going anywhere.
No, me neither.
I think James Tavernier is here, and it's how we manage him and how we work it best for the club. But as I said, that's Russell Martin's call now, and we just have to allow him the opportunity to manage and be the head coach, and we can disagree and we can discuss it to death, but we have to allow that to happen, and we have to allow it to be his choice.
Yep, big thank you to Graham, who's kindly donated one Rangers Review membership. That's very kind of you, Graham. Thank you for your generosity, and also to Streamed DRB for the kind donation. The possibility that they could bring in their own captain if the transfer window that players have proved time and time again they played for themselves. So that is his view on that one.
David, can I just quickly say on that, I think there's a huge possibility Chris might be able to come in on this, that there'll be experience and leadership brought into this group.
I would imagine so, because it's a group that needs it. You're not just looking at physical attributes; you're looking at technical ones, and you're certainly looking at mental attributes as well. That is a squad that we've questioned the mentality of this group and of these players too often. That has to be something that's changed as well. But there also has to be continuity. I know everyone is at a stage of rip it up and start again, which is fine, but it's not that's not realistic. You've got a squad of, call it 25. You can't lose 25 players and bring in 25 in one transfer window and say that that's going to be possible. Some of these players, whether you like it or not, some of them will still be here next season. The majority of them, a lot of them, won't be, and they shouldn't be, because they're proving that they're not good enough. But a number of these guys will still be part of this squad. You do still need continuity. You do still need people that understand the club and that know the league. And that's the type of role I think James Tavernier could fulfil. You need people that can bring people with them. You need people that can give new signings a bit of insight into, this is what it's like to be at Ibrox when it's going well. This is what it's like when it's going badly. This is what it's like to go to Pittodrie on a Wednesday night, to go to Kelly. These are the type of games. So you can't just say, we'll rip out the whole thing and we'll start again, we'll put a new captain in and everything will be great. And if people think that you take James Tavernier out of this squad and everything is suddenly fixed and Rangers have got the mark of champions about them, the problems are bigger than that. It's not a case of, if Tav plays, Rangers don't win, and if he doesn't play, they're champions. There's far more work needs done than that. And as Stevie's outlined there, I think he will still have a part to play in that. How big a part to play ultimately depends on James Tavernier. If he's physically able and his form is there, he'll play. If he's not, then back to the same conversation we had at times last season, he shouldn't play. And that should be the same for every single member of this squad. But like Stevie and like you, Derek, I don't see Tav being one of the more high profile casualties, if you like, of this summer.
No. I don't either. Some suggestions of players that could come in. I love this because this will spark a lot of debate. Gaz says Angus Gunn will be in for Butland. As the Daily Angus Gunn mention. Andrew Phillips says bring in Kevin De Bruyne. That would certainly be a box office signing. And Bill says Vardy is a new captain. I would take all three of those guys, incidentally. But whether that is likely or not remains to be seen. Other issues, players that could be departing the club. Looks like Robin Proper heading back to FC 20. Reports in Holland, Chris, that he's close to rejoining his former employers. We've discussed Robin Proper before. Decent player. Just not used to the physicality of Scottish football. He said it himself. He found it difficult. If Rangers can just get their money back for him, then we wish him well. I'd imagine it's just not worked.
Even if they can't get that money back for him, he still shouldn't be part of the squad next season because he's not suited to Rangers. He's not suited to Scottish football. If they can get back as much as they paid for him, then that's a good bit of business. It's a signing that has never worked. It's not going to work under Russell Martin, and it's best for all parties that the Proper moves on. He's an Eredivisie defender. It's no surprise that's the link. We'll get on that case just shortly and see if there's anything doing on it, and see if we can firm up those stories that were in the Holland last night.
Yeah, I think Rangers. Stevie, in terms of the centre backs, is there a place, I mean, just off the top of my head, John Souttar, of course, that contract situation needs resolved. That aside, of course, Leon Balogun's departed. Clinton Enciala is there. Ben Davis has come back, but I can't imagine him being part of this new look Rangers. Probably need another 2 centre-backs this summer, would you reckon, if Clinton's one of them?
If Clinton's one of them, yeah. I've long since said again, Derek, that Robin Proper will return to Holland in this transfer window. Doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Just a guy that was brought in that was never suited to Scottish football. Would wish him all the best, but he's one of at least 7 or 8 players that I would say thank you very much and good luck in the future, because you're not needed here at Rangers Football Club. As harsh as that might sound, and there's plenty to follow him. The centre back position is pretty urgent in my opinion. I think Russell Martin will be smart. Right back position, there's a few freebies that I can see him looking into that might be interesting. We'll definitely go and get a left back. I think that's obvious.
What sort of freebies?
Well, I'm looking, and I don't like giving names because people will say, "Oh, Stevie's brought this one up or that one." But what about Kyle Walker-Peters, who he worked with before, who's free and available? I think bringing him or somebody like that in at right back, if that was possible, on a free transfer, lots of experience, a really athletic, good player. Could he come in here and dovetail with James Tavernier at right back, for example, or make the position his own? That would be an interesting possibility for me.
Yep.
And it's a kind of experience that I think we would benefit from. Now, to reiterate, this is just me. It's not based on anything at all. Don't want anybody to confuse that. But that's the kind of signing. We're heavily linked with Connor Cody again. Potentially that rumour's been going on now quite heavy now for the last week or so. So these are the kind of experienced players that perhaps Russell Martin might look to, and it's the kind of experience we also need in our back line going forward. So I expect, Derek, that he'll be smart. He'll be quite clever in what he tries to do. We're going to need to spend money on areas. I think, wingers and attackers, and especially how he wants to play. I think this is key. For how he wants to play, we are 6 players short of even being able to do that. So I think he'll look for a 9. He'll definitely look for wingers. He'll look for an 8 or a 10 in that position in midfield. And he'll also try and piece together a defence that has to be reorganised. And all of this, I think will happen this summer and quite quickly, because it has to happen in order for him to have an opportunity to play. So, exciting times ahead. Robin Proper, as I said, thanks for your efforts. And, he can join, as I said, 7 or 8 others, Derek, that can leave this football club and nobody would miss them. And I don't mean that to be disparaging or hateful or anything. It's not. He just didn't suit our game. He wasn't really good enough for the physical challenge inside of it. There were times where he played well in certain games, because he handled those kind of games. But physically and things, it wasn't there. Scored a nice goal against Celtic in New Year. Thanks, Robin, and all the best in the future.
Yep, that's an interesting one from William, who says he'll give Dowell a shot if he stays. Had a very good loan spell at Birmingham City. I know Chris Davis is a big fan of Kieran Dowell, but Stevie's shaking his head there. Yeah, it would be a surprise, but perhaps just not used well enough by Rangers during his time at the club. Of course, punted by it was a Michael Beale signing, wasn't he, at the time? Then punted out on loan by Philip Clement, but I think he'll do well if he goes to Birmingham or wherever.
Derek, he's got a value, a monetary value. And teams down south, if it's not Birmingham, would you agree, Chris? Somebody will come and take him. The same with Ben Davies. I think Kieran Dowell, Ben Davies, Ravi Matondo, Cifuentes, all the loan boys that came back in, although Russell Martin speaks about them getting a chance, a lot of them are high earners. I don't see any of them having a future at the football club. One or two might surprise us. Kieran Dowell, William might be right. I don't see it because they have monetary value. And Rangers will look to make money in the transfer market. That's why I can see the likes of Redvan, obviously proper, going. I can see Jack Butland going. I can see Cyril Dessers being made available at times as well. So I think this is going to be a really interesting window. Rangers will try and recoup money as well as what we'll put out, just for the whole finance side of it and keeping things above water and things like that. So I don't see too many getting a lifeline. Maybe one might surprise you. Maybe William might be right, but I generally don't see it. Chris, do you share that opinion?
No, I don't see Dowell playing a part at all. I think we've seen the last of Dowell, we've seen the last of Davies, we've long seen the last of Cifuentes, we've seen the last of Matondo. As you say, there's a lot of talk about the this investment that's coming from the American consortium that will get signed off in a fortnight or so at the general meeting. That initial 20 million, people saying, does that mean the transfer budget is 20 million? Patrick Stewart was asked a bit about that yesterday, and of course he wasn't going to come out and say, yes, we now have £20 million to spend. Let's go and buy some footballers with it. Why would you go and show your hand like that? But that's going to be the ballpark. That's going to be roughly where Rangers are initially. What else can they bring in on top of that to then go and add to that? So we've rounded off a number of the squad options there. If they can try and shift, there's a lot of wages that can be freed up there as well. There's a lot of money going out the door for absolutely zero return. So if Rangers can free up those wages and utilise them in a better way, if you can get some fees in, that then makes the financial picture considerably better and different. And we're then, another discussion is then what happens to your big ticket items? What happens to Raskin? What happens to Diomande? What happens to Igaman? Does one go, two go, three go, none of them go? If all three were to go, worst case scenario from the fans' point of view, that's a lot of money coming in the door that can then go and be reinvested in the squad. So don't see that 20 million figure as, well, that's all Rangers have got to play with. There's various different ways that they can manoeuvre this budget over the course of the window. And as Stevie said earlier on, I think it's important for people to take on board. It's a long window. It's September that this shuts. We're still very, very early in this process. Russell saying on Sky earlier on, one or two. That's just a phrase. That's just it's a manner of, it's just a way that people kind of put sentences together. I don't think he's saying there will only be one player in the door before that Champions League. He's just saying that. He's not going to come out and say there will be 7 new players in the door and it's X, Y, Z, and it'll be him, and him. It's just a phraseology aspect of it. So don't get too hung up on phrases like that being bandied around. We've seen managers come on, did it. Michael Beale was famous for it, saying 1 or 2, and then the following week it was 3 or 4. Beale went from 1 or 2 to 5 or 6 in the space of the same press conference at times. So let's not get too hung up on what numbers that managers are putting on things. They're never going to tell you exactly how many will be in and how many will be out.
Yeah, can I just say as well, see when you consider Ben Davies, Kieran Dowell, when you look at likes in the Dean Bayrami, Robin Proper, potentially Redvan Yilmaz, that's before you that's just players that Rangers that aren't contributing to Rangers at this moment in time. You know, a couple of million for each of them, roundabout, whatever you want to debate or talk about. Before you know it, you've got a £7 or £8 million coming in that could benefit the club from 2 very good signings that will make more of an impact than half a dozen that aren't. That's the kind of reasoning I'm looking for, and that's before you even touch whatever else they had. And remember, the football club have budgeted even without a takeover and without this kind of money investment coming in. I think the word accelerate was used quite a bit, and we'll just need to wait and see what they plan to do with that. But I'm with Chris. I wouldn't get too, and I've said it consistently, I wouldn't get too hung up on 20 million being all we've got, or we've only got part of it. I don't think it works like that in the slightest. And as Chris did say, that's before you factor in the kind of money that might be thrown about for some of our more sought after players. And the good thing is we're in a position now where we can say no. If you want Nico Raskin, if you want Mohamed Diamandi, if you want Hamza Gaman, you are paying what we want for it, not what you might think we will accept for it. So I think there's a difference. This window is going to need patience. You know, I said it, and I think we'll have a couple of players come in really quickly in time for the start of pre-season. But it's a long window, and there's going to be a lot happening. You might even find that the Champions League qualifiers and players that start in that game aren't the players that are here when the season gets to September. So there needs to be a wee bit of time allowed to restructure this, and we just have to be patient with that. But it's exciting as well, you know, from a fan's point of view. Really exciting. Who's going to come in? Who's going to be new heroes? Give me somebody that can run fast, please. Just some pace. A winger, a left winger. I can't remember what a left winger looks like. Give me a left winger. Proper left.
Rabbi Matondo's not a left winger, Stevie. How dare
Let's
you?
move on quickly. Let's. I want a proper left-sided winger that's going to be skillful, that's going to score goals, that's going to cross it in, that'll beat the first man. All that kind of exciting stuff. You know, that's what I'm looking for. Give me an 8 that can give me 10, 12, 15 goals a season. You know, there's all sorts of possibilities, and I can't wait.
Well, there was a hope that Oscar Cortez could be that guy, but we've not really seen anything of him to suggest that he could be. But Russell Martin may be able to get the best out of him. Tom D with the point just sort of echoes that, says Derek Chris Steve. How do you all feel about being prepared for the Champions League qualifiers? They're not far away and a lot of change to take place. I think they may come around too soon, I've got to admit, given the huge turnover and the way that Russell Martin likes to play as well. I just had my doubts that he'll get that aside up tip-top shape for those games. It's not exactly Rangers playing in the sort of League Cup group stage that you get at the start of seasons. They're playing top draw teams. So my concern is that it might just take a wee bit of time to implement what he's asking these players to do and getting players in that will be comfortable with that. But there you go. It's a race against time of that. There is no doubt. We'll wrap up with this. Chris with the point, another bit of news yesterday. He says, love the new away kit. So it was the one that was leaked about a month or so ago. White predominantly with a sort of red panel at the top and then a blue panel under. I think red and blue, isn't it?
Well, I don't get it. I've got it.
Go and get it, Stevie. Yeah, go and model it for us.
Hold on.
Stevie's going to go and model that.
I'm not modeling it. No chance, but I'll go and get
it. Chris, what did you make of the away kit?
If Stevie turns up in a away kit and a mankini, we're all in for a shock here, aren't we? I don't know if that'll be good for the viewer numbers or good for YouTube ranking or not. It's like the home top. It's a smart design. I think it seems to have gone down quite well with the fans. They seem to quite like it. As I always say on these issues, if it's a successful team, then people will like it. See if this is another dreadful season and Rangers win nothing and it's instantly forgettable, the top will become instantly forgettable as well. But no, I do like it, and as you can see, expertly modelled by Stevie.
Yeah. Yep. Does it look good quality, Stevie?
Listen, I really like it. I know it's not the easiest to try and kind of show you. It's got wee things that I kind of like. I really like the back of it. It's got a wee line.
Yeah.
I really like that. It's got all the kind of things you would like. The badges are embroidered on, which I like.
Good. Yeah.
And I love the colours. It's very similar to the 2008 one. But a lot of people asking about the sizing. Sizing's just the same. I think it's a good fit, and I love the colours. I love how it is. It is similar. I've seen the comment there to the kind of England style. I do. I do think that as well. But I really like it. Look, I really like it. It's quite light fabric wise. It's quite light, so it's not going to be heavy on you. And it's quite kind of. Don't want to sound like some sort of fashion guy, but it's quite breezy. It's quite light. I quite like it. How it sits on you. The fabric isn't uncomfortable or anything like that, so it's quite nice. I like the fact that the colours are quite bright the way they are, and the badges are embroidered on. So no, I really like it. I like both the kits. There'll be another 2 to come, of which are quite exciting. So
I've seen sort of images of a possible red one, which looks pretty smart. If that is genuine, then I'd be all over that one. But another 2
wait
kits.
till you see the fourth one, Derek. The fourth one will interest everyone. But look, I think the kits are nice. I really like the away one. And as Chris said, it's not about how they look. It's going to be about what they're remembered for being in. And I remember that one reminds me of, I don't know, Chris, if you remember, Rangers went up, I think it was 2008, the turn of 2009. Rangers went up to Inverness and they wore that away strip and they won 3-0. It was 0-0 at half time. And Pedro Mendes curled in an absolute beauty just about a minute after half time. And then I think Chris Boyd and possibly Nacho Novo got the second and the third in a 3-0 win. But that kit reminds me of that one. And Pedro Mendes, believe it or not, bending that one in right at the top. Pedro Mendes scored 4 goals for Rangers and they were all worldies. If you remember, Celtic, Inverness, the goal at Partick Thistle to put us through in the League Cup.
Tannadice.
And the goal that helped us win at Tannadice in the 3-0 victory to win the league. So, Pedro Mendes didn't really do it by half, did he? But that reminds me of that. I really like the kit. I would urge people to go and check it out and see what they think in person as well. Really like the fabric, really like it, how it is on you and stuff like that. So there was no modelling, Chris. I heard every comment that you said as I went into London like that. But hopefully, I know it's not ideal to kind of try and show people, what it's like, but the collar's really nice. Collar's a loose one, a kind of V-neck loose. And as I said, I know it's not easy to try and get it to kind of sit properly and hang properly to show folk, but hopefully that gives you a better idea.
An embroidered badge, good.
Of how it looks and stuff like that. I really, really like it. It's a really nice feel to it. So I would love to see what people think of it in the coming days as well.
I think I prefer that to the home. I'm not sold on the collar with the home jersey. I know some really love it, but I'm not too sure.
I like this collar because it's loose. It's just a V-neck. It's no foldy bits or anything. I really like that.
I'm not too sure about the one on the home kit, but certainly the way it looks decent. Chris says, "Cheers, Gokwan." So thank you for that.
I know foldy bits and everything. What am I like? But I've done my best to show people. So there we go.
Right, we'll wrap up there because it's been a bumper show today. Big thank you to Stevie and also to Chris for joining us on the show. As we touched on earlier, folks, keep your eyes peeled for that Kevin Thirlwell and Patrick Stewart interview, which will be with you at 12 noon. I know that Rangers have just released an interview with Kevin Thirlwell, a sit down, so you can go and check that out as well. Right, I don't envisage we'll be back on with any emergency briefings or anything like that a little bit later. Just a heads up what's to come over the weekend. Adam and Joshua have got a show coming out tomorrow morning. So those of you tactical gurus and those of you like your XG and all that sort of jazz, then you'll be entertained tomorrow. And I'm also speaking to a Dundee podcaster on Lyle Cameron, which will be with you on Sunday. So, get some insight into the new Rangers midfielder. Right, enjoy your Friday and your weekend, whatever you are up to. You up to anything special, lads? Stevie, you up to much?
No, but I do have my article coming out on Rangers Review on Russell Martin. So that's out over the weekend, and I'm working all weekend. So it's been a really hectic few weeks. I think we've done a show on my own podcast every single night. So it'll be a chance to unwind a wee bit, working over the weekend, and then we'll be ready to go next week because we say no breaking news and stuff like that, but signings will arrive thick and fast. So it's never too far away, is it? And Chris, this is Chris's favourite time. When there's 10 phone calls a day to each other. What about this guy? What about this guy? Are you chasing this? So, it's going to be fun. I know Chris can't wait. He loves it.
Can't get enough of it. No, it's going to be busy, but it's going to be good. We've had some interesting chases over over the years, Steve. The George Edmondson one is always one of my favourite ones, but there's been some good ones, and there's going to be many ones to come over the course of this summer.
The George Edmondson one is famously funny for Chris and I. Chris and I knew there was an English centre half coming up, and we didn't. We literally sat with a book going through, or the internet, whatever it was we were looking at time, going through names, wasn't it? And then put them back until we can finally get a face to the picture to say it is George Edmondson. So that is the lengths we go to try and get stories and make sure that people have the right information out there, Chris. It's fun. It's fun at times. And yeah, it's all about to begin again. Some laugh.
We're almost trying to work off like a police identity. Then it was like, please, can you describe the assailant? And then with like a rough idea, he's about 6 foot and he's got short hair and he's maybe a bit early 20s. And then we're just trying to find like 3 centre halves that Rangers could. I think we got there in the end. Probably wasn't actually worth it in the end, given George's Rangers career. But hopefully the chases that we're on this time will be slightly more beneficial. So as Stevie's piece will be on the site over the weekend. There is an interview with Patrick Stewart coming at 7 o'clock tonight, which people can read on the site. As I mentioned earlier on, Josh sat down with Russell Martin, and on Sunday there will be the inside story of the takeover deal, which I've been working on for the last few weeks, months, years. It's felt like a bit of detail on how the whole deal came about, how it unfolded, and a wee bit of what to expect as well. So that's on Sunday morning for people who have not had their fill of Rangers takeover news yet.
Excellent stuff. So we'll have you covered, folks. Don't worry about that. Right, enjoy your weekend. We'll be back again on Monday morning. So enjoy it, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.